Iron Banner is right around the corner, which doesn't usually excite me. Iron Banner rarely has anything too crazy, with maybe an occasional PvP weapon as an exception. A little bit before the final shape came out though, Bungie added a couple of weapons. One of these weapons was the Multimach, an old Iron Banner weapon made new again with a fresh set of perks. Now this thing's got PvP perks out the wazoo. Rangefinder, dynamic sway, target lock, the whole shebang. For PvE though, there's really only one combination that really makes sense. Attrition Orbs with Kinetic Tremors. Kinetic Tremors we all know and love, easily one of the best perks in the game. Attrition Orbs though? Before I got this particular role, I only had played around with Attrition Orbs on Parabellum, very similar SMG in the energy slot. It was good, but not really amazing. I liked it enough to give the perk another try though. So when I got this Multimach with Attrition Orbs and Kinetic Tremors, I figured I'd at least try it. How bad could it be? To preface this, I'd like to admit that I'm kind of an SMG guy. My most used weapon for a long time was this crafted Callus mini tool, 26,000 kills at level 342. Needless to say, I kinda like this thing. Multimach shares the same frame of SMG with the mini tool, the lightweight frame. This is also my favorite weapon frame. It shoots fast, it makes you move fast, and it deals a solid amount of damage. So Multimach already has a few boxes checked for me. But then you actually use this role, and it all comes together. I'm not into pushing the idea of missing out in Destiny. If you miss something, a weapon, an event, whatever, I just really don't think it's that big of a deal. Very rarely is something that good that you should drop everything to grind the game. This Multimach though, alright, let's get into it. What makes this perk combination on this particular weapon so good? Attrition Orb sees you landing shots in order to generate an orb. No kills required, just landing shots. It doesn't have to be on a single enemy either. Landing a certain amount of shots in a pretty generous time window will see an orb spawn. Then of course Kinetic Tremors causes waves of kinetic damage after landing shots against a single enemy. Both these perks have the same requirement: land shots. Sure, Kinetic Tremors requires a single target whereas Attrition Orbs doesn't, but the requirements are the same. Use your weapon as you would normally. You know, point it at the bad guys and shoot it. So the perks are easy to get going, but how effective are the perks? Very. If you've never used Kinetic Tremors, you need to. It's such a powerful damage perk for so many reasons. It shoots its waves in an area, which helps clear groups of adds. It deals a really solid amount of damage, which helps with tougher enemies. And it requires no kills, which means that it's going to work regardless of what activity you're doing. It really is amazing. Attrition Orbs, on the other hand, doesn't add any damage to your weapon. Well, not directly anyway, we'll talk more about that later. No, Attrition Orbs, as I mentioned earlier, creates orbs. They're small orbs, let's not get that confused. These aren't the big fat orbs that your friends will be making with their supers. No, these are tiny orbs. Item Manager says it gives 0.8% super energy. So you'll get just under 1% of your super from each orb you pick up from this perk. Womp womp, right? I mean, that sounds pathetic. It kinda is, but there's more to orbs than just super gains. Way more. Let's start with the subclasses. There's a few fragments scattered around that give some sort of benefit from picking up an orb. On Strand you can get some Woven Mail, Void can give you Devour, and Prismatic can give, well, a lot of different things depending on the super you have equipped. So right there you have a plethora of different effects that you can get from picking up an orb, but those aren't on every subclass. So let's take a look at some of the mods that you can use with any subclass, anytime. The boots are where most of these go. I'm not going to list off all the names because that is probably the hardest tongue twister ever, but from the descriptions you can see that there's all kinds of different things you can get from orbs. Grenade, melee, class ability, all three, and even 2 different kinds of healing. All from just picking up an orb, which we've established doesn't require any takedowns or anything special. There's also surges, so throw on a kinetic surge or 2 and boost Multimach's damage. This also boosts Kinetic Tremors damage as well, which ends up adding to quite the oomph. There's also stacks on stacks to get 2 armor charge from 1 single orb. I think we all get the idea. Orbs are more than just super energy. They're healing, they're ability energy, they're damage, they're all of that and more. I mean, if you really want, just throw on some Star Eaters to have the orbs you pick up count more towards your super. So, Kinetic Tremors and Attrition Orbs is a strong combo, but why Multimach specifically? Well, I already mentioned that it's my favorite weapon type, the lightweight SMG, but it's not just because of that. It's because it shoots fast, like really fast, and that's really it. Kinetic Tremors requires X amount of shots to activate. Attrition Orbs requires Y% of the magazine to land before an orb is made. The numbers don't really matter, I think it's 13 and 67%, but it really doesn't matter. What matters is the speed at which you can get the X and Y bullets landed. Let's say, for simplicity's sake, we want to dump a whole magazine. That's the goal. We want to dump an entire magazine as fast as possible in order to get both of our perks going. My Multimach has a 37 round magazine, so 37 rounds at 900 rounds per minute. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, so let's compare that to another weapon that can get Attrition Orbs and Kinetic Tremors. Origin Story. 32 rounds at 450 rounds per minute. Go! A pretty noticeable difference. Now, obviously, you don't actually need to dump the whole magazine to get the perks going, but it's a decent way of showing the speed at which both of these weapons achieve the perk criteria. There's also Midnight Coup, which is a solid choice if you want to go that route, but I find that automatic weapons get the ball rolling much quicker and more consistently. Alright, I think I've spent enough time talking about the details. Let's bring it back to the core question. Should you grind Iron Banner to get the Attrition Orb, Kinetic Tremor, Multimach for PvE? My answer is yes, but if you don't like PvP and don't want to do any, the Origin Story is a very good weapon that has the exact same perks. We all saw it side by side, so you saw the difference between Origin Story and Multimach. For this perk combination, technically speaking, yes, Multimach is better. That doesn't mean that Origin Story is bad. It's a different type of weapon. It has more range, it's more stable, it's got a different origin trait, Vanguard's Vindication, a little bit of healing on kill. I'm not complaining. I love my Multimach. It's my favorite weapon in the game now, but there are options for those who understandably don't like PvP. Regardless of the weapon you get this combo on, use it. It's amazing and it works with any build, any playstyle, any activity. If you're grinding for Multimach this upcoming week, I wish you the best of luck. Let me know if you've used Multimach or any other weapons with these two perks. Until next time.